join us.
And I am Uchechukwu Ebonam. A very good morning to you and welcome to Nzuko Anambra Nko Watch Data.
Today we'll be talking about religion and politics. You know, so I now have our guest in the studio, Anambra, the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, ABGA. I know Anabata Mazi Ejimofo Opara Nona Nzuko Anambra.
Yeah, good morning, Dalo, Mr. Roy, and Jasmine.
Yeah,
pleasure being here.
Yeah, you're smiling. This morning it rained, cats and dogs, and you defied the rain to be here. So, how do you see the weather?
Wow, the weather be fine actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
The weather will be fine
actually.
Okay. Taking a look at the topic for today, Nzuko Anambra, looking at religion and politics. Can you help us understand the relationship between religion and politics in Nigeria today?
Okay, for me, I consider this a very sensitive topic because.
Well, you're Knight of the Church.
Yeah, I'm a Knight of the Church. Yeah, sure. It's easier, but also places me on the spot. And anything that has to do with Yana Azazo, a lot of emotions go into it.
Yeah.
And anything that has to do with faith and belief, a lot of emotions also go into it. So both are social fact, and of course it gets a lot of people invested one way or the other. You know, if you have that sect, there's a sense of belonging you feel. Only have broken Kagosbo. APGA, hi, you know, so these whole things have a lot of emotions invested into them, and that is why in discussing them, what we'll just try to do as much as possible is to be as objective as we can. And maybe what I'll be sharing with us this morning will be, you know, some of my personal researches and some historical context to the conversation. Well, first of all, religion and politics are, like I said, they are social facts and they predate even human existence. People who, you know, the very story about how heaven and earth came to being, and there's also this story about what brought down devil from Satan from heaven down to the earth and how he became who he is and all that. So if you look at all these things, there's a bit of politics in everything we do in life. And even down to the home front, there is politics. And when you want to define politics as, you know, how power is appropriated, how power is shared, how power is consolidated, you realize that in everything we do as human beings, that there's some bit of politics inside of it. Now, the other side of it, which has to do with religion, is a belief or man's relationship with the supernatural. You get it. So, and everybody, even those, I wrote some time ago on my social media handle that not believing in itself is a form of belief. You know, so everybody one way or the other believe in something. So, and that thing you believe in, whether physical or supernatural, has consequence on, you know, how you relate, you know, with it, and also how you relate with your fellow human beings within that context. So, marrying both together, some scholars have been of the opinion that the apostolic calling and the political calling are not of the same dimension, and that they should never be intertwined. Some persons have insisted that even dating back to the biblical days, that there is no king who is a prophet, and there is no prophet who is a king. Well, I may not have done my personal research, but from the prima facie evidence that I know David was a king, he was not a prophet. I know Nathan was a prophet, he was not a king. I know Saul was a king, he was not a prophet. So, but these two offices or these two callings may be, they are not mutually exclusive. So they have a way of interplaying, you know, with each other. So, here in a very nutshell is that politics now, or faith, but politics joker. But religion and politics, or they can be in the politics about some aliens, and they know about some aliens. No, but what we are now saying is that the leadership of the two oftentimes have different dimensions to them, and that is why even today in some churches, if you want to vie for political office, you are mandated to resign or to drop your color.
Yes.
Because they both cannot be carried along at the same time. But they also have some mutual influence.
Yeah.
They have some mutual influence, in deciding certain things within them. But I tell people that no religious leader should also be a political leader.
Yeah.
And no political leader should be a religious leader. So I don't know the details of I'm always how do I interpret.
We'll get there even when you've answered to an extent, because the premise would have been what religion is, what politics is, and then we get down to other nitty-gritties of what we're discussing. So you can still get down to that.
I tried at a definition. I said religion has to do with man's faith and man's belief or interaction with the supernatural. And I said earlier, because if you define it that way, some people tell you, what of those who don't believe in, what of those who don't believe in anything? And I said, I argue earlier in some other pieces that not believing itself is a form of belief.
Yes.
So it's in the you have become a religion unto yourself. You have become your own faith. That means you have an unusual faith or an unfettered faith in yourself.
Yes.
So it's a form of belief too. And I said politics will distribution of power, acquisition of power, consolidation of power. And of course, power has its own unique impact on our social outlook, how we view the world, how we interact with the world. Power is very significant in a lot of things because it determines quite a lot of things within, anywhere we want to look at it, whether it's in the family, whether it's in the church, whether it's in the society, community, village, town, clubs, whatever it is. Power is very significant because it is power that sets the pace. It is power that leads the charge. It is power that does, power is executional. It's executional in a lot of dimensions. So if you now bring in, I try to make a context as to how they are different, and I also try to make a context as to how they are related or similar. Now, I also mentioned in my opening that some scholars have argued that the two are not coterminous and they shouldn't be mixed. But at the level of which you are arguing that they shouldn't be mixed, I think it should be at the leadership level. And that's why I said there has been no king who was a prophet, and there has been no prophet who was a king at the leadership level. But at the level of the adherents, at the level of and the rest of it, nobody will tell you that because they believe in God, they believe in politics. So what I'm trying to say is that while they are not mutually exclusive, there's a kind of interplay between them that also shapes how we live our lives and how the kind of results we see in our society.
But I think somebody being a Christian and a politician and then bearing the Bible in mind now, that the person will make a better politician than others, being a Christian.
Well, for me, I don't think being a Christian should or makes so much difference in how you relate with others, because if we go by that dimension, I tell people that in this life there are only two sets of people in this life, and they ask me who. I say they are good and bad people. So you don't have Christians and Muslims, you don't have Igbo and Yoruba Hausa, you don't have Hindu and Buddhist. You have good and bad people, and these people can be found in every religion, in every political party, in every family, in every space, in every corner of the earth that you exist. So when you want to narrow it down to saying, since you are a Christian, you should be a better politician, I should want to redirect by saying that once you're a good person, you should be a good politician. If you're a bad person, you'll be a bad politician. These things are not just philosophical; they are time tested, and they are very practical. Somebody will tell you that the family is the nucleus of what we call society. So what it means is that if you have an aggregate of very good families, then of course it translates to having a very good society. And if you have a very bad society, look at the family front. That is something that is amiss. So in the same vein too, if you have a society that values its ethics, that values its morals, that values its fundamental principles of existence, it will naturally translate into how the totality of that society's outlook, whether it is in politics, whether it's in business, whether it's in the professional spectrum and all that. So all these things bother about what society values, what society respects. When we begin to bring in religion and politics, it begins to create the divide. That's why I tell people that every religion must emphasize that which makes it strong.
Yeah.
And the moment they begin to lose that which makes them strong, they become, like the Bible will say, they lose their taste. So when we talk about Christianity as a basis, we know that being a Christian alone is not enough to say you're a good person.
Yeah.
Because we have pastors who have been scammers. We have priests who have been caught in different nefarious activities.
Yeah.
You get it? But does it mean that Christianity is bad? No. Christianity has its fundamental ethos. It has its fundamental principles. And if you must be called a good Christian, that means you must live out those principles.
Yeah.
And the question now is, what are those principles of Christianity? Love thy neighbor as thyself.
Exactly.
Do unto others what you want to do, what they want to do unto you. Fear your God, respect thy parents. These things are quite, very, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not. But the question now is this: of all these things that Christianity has spelled out for us to do, how many are we doing? So if you're not doing them at the level of a personal existence, even if you come to politics, you will still not do them. So I tell people, it's not about being a good Christian or a good Muslim or a good traditional religion person. No, it's about being a good person. And being a good person means that you have told yourself, and that now okukogi akwadronka. And the people who akwadronka, bagudu na politics mbao na mama mbumade. Na ego naka ijiwene tobodo, mejiane tobodo, manjia gomoto, manjia lono, manjia bane, mansini de bayas. Uncle is come Manas Lefa. I'm on the wire like you. Adia Mama. But
I know a Nigerian politician way back late now who said if you want to be a good politician, that you have to kill your conscience or suppress your conscience to be a good politician.
Well, for me, I think that's on the extreme. Just like these people there are those who make people believe that politics is a dirty game.
Okay.
It's not a dirty game. Politics can be lived. It can be done with principle. But somebody would say something. Now, will I add it? Would delay your long? No, we are before folk. Yeah, no, no, Mazen, the Nabra, no, ready. Most of these people, old politicians, we've had in this country where a project came out, Brazil, I was telling the media that in a particular party we kill. It has happened in this country. But does it mean that every person has killed?
No.
No, so I am that generalized. No. What the person may have wanted to say is what a particular speaker, I can't remember the name, but it's a popular quote where they say, if you want to be a leader, then if you want to be a good person, then you cannot be a leader. Because if you want to be a good person, sell ice cream. Because as a leader, you must take very hard decisions.
Yeah.
Good. So, and of course, every decision you take has both people who are for and who are against such decisions, right? For instance, when the government came on board and decided to, cut down the cost of facility management from 137 million naira to about 11 million naira today. 137 million naira
yes.
The livelihood and the rest of it.
Yeah.
So such people now will be defining the governor as a bad person. Like unlike maybe when the governor recruited teachers, 8,115 teachers, some person would have actually felt that I see KK Anaka Jasmine because but the governor said that teaching is a vocation.
Yeah.
Odeka ichifada. Everybody in ichifada, everybody nabu pastor.
Yeah.
So it is something that this person team or a vocation because you are coming to shape lives.
Yes.
So he told them to make the recruitment that will take you one name, let this process be transparent, let it be merit based, let it be for and only given to people who are qualified to be teachers. So that's a very good decision, right?
Yeah.
And when this table that's not working card. Or Messi and Novuno. Yeah, they know about the Kenya stakeholders. Stakeholders are. So they will ask yourself, and there's this very, very, very important question that every leader must ask before they take their certain decisions. And that was a question I believe the governor was asking these stakeholders. He said, let me ask you this question. This person you're bringing to me now, Kenny or as teacher. Can you allow him or her teach your own child? And more often than not, some of them recline.
Wow.
Okay, nyele ya kanu. Ote weni be muso buke nyele ya kanu. Onya hichi nyele aka icho kenye olunkuzi. Kwenye mana ima mpunku kuzele mwage. You get it? To such persons now, if you don't come to that level of realization that what the government is concerned about is the overarching public good, they will define him as wicked. Or we need to say, people Afro Budaya, also na Nando Budaya, Mishmanoni Bazo. Oftentimes, even if we take our minds back to when we were kids, there were certain things our parents deprived us of, denied us of having, that we defined as wicked. Now, why should my father do this to me? With the benefit of hindsight, as we have come to maturity, as we have come to this level of growth and realization, we have come to realize that it was actually for our good. And that is what good leadership does. It is not about being saying that you must be wicked. No, it's about ensuring that it's about ensuring the greater good for the greater population of the masses.
Right. Now in Nigeria, during the last presidential election, we saw a particular party with the Muslim tickets, which caused a lot of disagreement and agreement from different parts of the country. And finally, this party has they are the ones leading the nation today, even with the Muslim ticket. A lot was said as regards to striking a balance between the Muslim and the Christians. So if you are going to be the president, your vice should be a Christian. But then nothing was done about it. They moved on with what they had on board. And at this point, how do you describe the role religion has played historically in Nigeria in shaping our political landscape? Okay, now let me start from this premise. Let me start from this premise. Many of us were kids in 1993, and we grew up to being told that the election of 1993, the June 12th election of 1993, remains the most free and fair, transparent election in the history of this country, and quite fortuitously conducted by an Igbo. The late Professor Humphrey Wosu.
Yes.
Now, that election was won by two Muslims, Abiola and is it Kingibe, or I don't know which of them, who was his running mate. But I know it was a Muslim
SDP and NRC.
So it was a Muslim ticket. You get it? Now, I tell people that this whole conversation about only potato or chichi, and all those things, they are symptoms of a larger social problem that we are somewhat negligent about because somehow it favors our personal narrative. Now, if you ask me this question and you want me to answer from an emotional point of view, of course, I feel in a certain kind of way that we have the number one, number two citizen of my country, and nobody of my faith is in that circle. Emotionally, I have that discontent. You get it? Emotionally. But when you want to now review it from the point of history, I tell you it's not the first time. I just give an example now of 1993. An election judged 3 years. So the election wasn't judged the best by just the kit and kills of those people. Even down here, Ogabalosa, Abiola, everybody was just lambasting the military government and saying, no election, I ain't chapter, we're 12. So it means that only Nkuburu to Abiola vote. Vote. You get the point. Now, I'll tell you vote because no matter no Muslim or no matter no Bonka, their decision was basically on the merit of what they were promising the people. You get the point. And that's exactly what politics is all about. Because like I've always said, and like the governor always, I like quoting the governor, maybe because he's my mentor, and I've grown to be listening to him, more often than not. I think these days, if I hear 20 things in a week, 17 or 19 of them are things that are said by Soludo. He said something very, very striking. It's still in the build-up to this recruitment of teachers that happened 2 years ago. He said, can you tell me a Christian way of teaching mathematics? Is there a Muslim way of tarring the road? Is there a Yoruba way of bringing good governance? Is there an Igbo way of giving free antenatal and free delivery to women? For ensuring a better health sector? So some of this, when a conversation comes down to your faith, religion, you know, as a determinant of your capacity, then we have lost it. There are people who don't believe in what we believe in, but we have had encounters with them, and we told ourselves that they are baseball mother. Are you getting the point? They only have baseball mother. Are you Christian, Muslim? Are you getting the point? So what I'm trying to say here in essence is that as on a personal level, and as a Christian, and from my emotional side of things, it feels in a certain kind of way that we have Muslims, a Muslim ticket in 2023 election. But from the objective stance of it, from an enlightened point of view, I tell people what we demand from our leaders and what we should demand from our leaders is good governance. And good governance is not an exclusive preserve of any religion or ethnic group. We've had a plethora of leaders across since the history of this country. Some of them who have actually affected our lives in very critical ways may not even be from our kids, neither are they from our kin, neither are they from our religion. There are leaders who have led this country that when we evaluate them, we don't even remember where they come from. All we remember is what they do or what they did. So I envisage in Nigeria where people will come out to contest for positions, and they will be judged on the merit of what they are promising the people and on the merit of their competence and capacity to deliver their promise. And not whether Mahabo Onibo, Mahabo Yoruba, Mahabo South, Mahabo North, Mahabo Christian, Mahabo Buddha, and all those things. So that's what that this question for me, I don't know if I've done justice to it.
But then we also find that, especially looking at Anambra State as a study right now, that people who are coming out to contesting for major political positions tend to look or seek for endorsements from the church. The church. I want to talk about the church right now, not basically ordinary, because mostly have large number of Christians in Anambra State. They go to the church to seek endorsements, and they feel that this is the gateway to getting the seat. How do you see such attitude?
And then adding to that, is it right for the church leader
to do such
maybe
endorsement?
The priest to start telling people, vote for this person, don't vote for this person, we must follow this person, we must not follow this person.
Okay. You get it. And that's why I tell people that everybody put us in the baby shit. No side effect, Baba. Because even water, as the most fundamental element that humans need to survive in terms of their biological need, require an excess. So I would answer this in this is a very uncomfortable conversation, but I believe that the only thing that can actually change it is when we continue to tacitly put into our people that mindset that leadership should be about capacity, should be about competence, should be about records, track records. You get it? Should be about track record, capacity, competence. Should be about character. By the time we continue to constantly remind the people of this, I am sure, what's it called? Religion will just become another avenue to selling these things to the people and not a determinant of these things. And let me explain. I have no reason to ask the church. When I mean the church now, I mean different denominations and sects, of the Christian faith. I have reason to ask them to stay away from politics, because politics determines their existence. Politics determines their day-to-day survival, right? So, like somebody would say, if you want to change a thing, be part of it, right? So I have no reason to tell the church, don't support politicians or don't play politics or no, play it, but what I don't support is when the support becomes a source of division. Because I'll tell you this. And the so, and why am I drawing this inference? I mean, the is, let's even take, for instance, when it comes down to saying, okay, now, do Nazi election, na Anambra State, kita now, na vanchabo, Catholic, for instance. Or what will not be the object, or what will not be the differentiating factor? What will be that consideration? Let's assume that many election Anambra are Anglicans. Where would be that thing that will now objectively inform your decision on who is best fit for the position? Now, remove that Anglican or Catholic or Pentecostal toga and isolate that particular thing that will make you vote for them. That is the core essence of selecting a leader. Whether it's Anglican or Catholic or Pentecostal is inconsequential. These things are just, nomenclature things where as well as and like I said, it's part of human existence. As like a channel be a book.
Yeah.
When you want to do stratification, it's what we call social stratification. I don't know about even within you, your head and your other person would not be okay. That other times your heart is telling you something, your head is saying something else. And your third leg is telling you something else. And you have to decide in key also.
Yeah.
So okay is not just about your interpersonal relationship. It doesn't have to be with interpersonal relationship. That's why we can work in the I say I can get one meeting. You get the point?
Yeah.
One meeting, so at the end of the day, as humans, I don't know why you're meeting. As a group, as a family, as a set, and bring out common denominators. Because we can make progress. Yeah. Because this whole conversation about a brain, let me also draw some form of analysis. When I met my principal, when I met the governor of Anambra State, there are questions he didn't even ask me. I think he got to know where I was from just some year ago, a year or two ago. This is after many years of having dealt with me, had interactions with me. The same thing too with his ADC. The same thing too with his press secretary and some other persons. Because in making his decision, order occur to him, he doesn't occur to him. For him, those things are pedestrian. They are not the core of the matter. So we have to understand that religion, as it were, it's at the personal level. That's why when you go to certain places, not like they don't like God or they don't want God mentioned, but in order to allow for that level playground for everybody to participate, I do busy opening prayer. I'm just not anti maybe do because we take easy Bible comes here. Oh, make it now. Jesus' name. I know that's why you go to certain countries or certain parts of the country today. They don't longer allow this. They define it as public nuisance, and which of course that's exactly what it is. Public transport. Key 2, 3 or 5 minutes of key has you go but you be because in a hurry. Of will be known as Jehovah. Jehovah for the entire stretch of the journey. Depriving you of that time, that moment, that little time which you back is gone. Epota, Osibina, if you was no position of Colongolo, now you post Namuta. So there is religion. You get the point. But it's now I see how I come against you in Jesus' name. Because in a rented apartment, a shared space, taking a whole partners, a bit of it. I want to get better beg you. And be so we to be make noise.
That takes us to this noise pollution law of late in Anambra State. How has that helped, shape the society in curbing the excesses of these, how do I put them, preachers, Yeah.
I tell you, it's about the awakening. I tell people, something happened in this state some years ago, I think the early days of this administration, when the governor started this disruptive change, and when he said on it, I had a man and all that, so he went full throttle, and it was demolitions here and there and all those. I remember a popular person whose structure was affected, and something struck me when the person was revolting about the demolition ongoing there.
Yeah.
He said, they demolished my property in Igbo land. My own property in Igbo land. I look back and people weren't seeing the negative side of that comment. So, but let me just draw this allusion so you understand where I'm going to.
Yeah.
Now, that same person, you cross River Niger, Badabaguda Sabeba, or Bada Abuja, or Bada Lagos, before I leave for your master plan. I don't know what your master plan, or talk all like happy than you. Mana, why is it that most of our people, the moment we cross River Niger, Bateba, or put in a Ibo and the one anyhow? Why put that? Among some and Alialo, Ego Coyeli. Nobody under high tension can Alia. As a look in China, as a gagone. Naturally, chain or Yabi, or Yabi, Cocoa the Museum, or Asigogania, or Float Channel. It all as a baby, I told him Bizarre, donkey, or Ruki, or Gaba. So you realize that somehow there's this culture of anyhowness where we believe, and I think it's at the heart of what the very function of it is. Yeah, na kulicho nyade yanjo, and we no machakusi so nyaman. I na jogi, ani nchambe kusi sai. I will go to the Buddha.
So good.
So we put it as na kusi some bunam chena la ABS. No kusi some. Nam chena la ABS. Blaya mimi about ABS. Ile kusi na online kai tete. Sigi mbali ane evidence ko Anambra be sisted. Ese msimba check ala tono kusi some. So some of these negative will I say some sayings never appearing in this in modern world, we should just discard them. I want to make us swear. You make you see kwado. So when we talk about this noise pollution thing, I'm happy that the looking has started.
Yes.
And people are beginning to realize that I need after we make us see soge. You make you see cool, and that's exactly what that law is all about. It's not targeted at anybody. It's not targeted against the gospel.
Yes.
It's not targeted against the banana. It's not targeted against anybody. It's targeted at disorder, at anyhowness.
Okay, we have to open up the phone line so that people can join us and be part of the conversation. Call us on 0706 5381 320. If you're watching us live on Facebook, drop your comment in the comment section. We will as well read out your comment.
You can as well call us on 0808 487 2166. I take it again, it's a new number, 0808 487 2166, or send us a message on WhatsApp at 0807 113 8812, and remember to indicate your name and location when you do that.
Hello, please call us back.
Someone is here.
Yeah.
Hello, good morning. You don't want to come out. Please, when you call, move away from your radio set, okay? Hello, good morning. All right.
What's happening? Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
To you. Your name and location?
So the people are also calling from Enugu.
Okay, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I like the program on my way.
Hello.
But this station, Anambra station, and the Anambra. Anyway, I'm a traveler.
Okay.
He can that the outside waiting the outside. The man Makata always anything na English. I got to get outside the program. So because I am enjoying this program, but I need more. Is why in natural even with the signal APS can we take a lot of people because this is my brother station that's engaged the kids because program on the match comment on the same get down in there.
Dalo, my brother. My Okugedaba, I get well here.
Thank you.
I get tea and all of Dalo. Hello. Hello, anybody there? Hello.
Someone is here.
Hello, somebody's there already. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. What's going on? Anybody there?
No.
Okay. Hello. All right, looking at the attitude of, okay, somebody is here. Hello.
Someone is here actually. Hello, good morning.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Your name and location?
Okay, my name is Stanley Onsepen. From Moka.
Stanley from Moka. All right, go on.
I'm calling to comment with just again. This is an interesting one. In our society today, one of the problems we are having is the issue of religion and politics. And people tend to put together. They create confusion all over the place. They have been able to tell us that there are two separate lines that cannot be lived even though somehow they are interconnected. So when we are talking about it is important. We can also know that our life needs to be defined by faith. If we believe in something, it's affected from our emotions and our sentiments. Even when we are preparing policy, if your sentiments, the emotions part of it. So it's an important topic, and what is happening is that everybody must.
Wow. That's a network problem. Okay, we have somebody comment on Facebook from Matthew Anambra. Come watching live from the north here. Religion has to do with entities, cannot be subjected to empirical analysis, while politics has to do with power, and it is distributed. I think the two has to be separate. The two should be separated. An ordained minister has no business with politics by joining political parties.
Someone is here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Thank you, man.
I'm American MPS. From Nigo. One of our the gentleman in the studio on the phone. In fact, I because of our people, the mindset anyway. From Anambra, Bataya to come and also taking this one. Obodo ndị ọzọ na-echukwa ebe mana ọ na-abụ ihe mwute na onye asị ya mee ihe dị mma most of our people are na-echite from ime ihe dị mma so na ihe dị etu ahụ adọrọ mma anyị kwesịrị iche ugwu abụọ so bịa na ndị politicians na-ejekwu ndị isi ndị ụka ka enye ha approval for Monday. So, well, I'm asking all the okay njọ. I'm asking all the okay mma. Come on, ihe mwa bụ na onye ọbụla pụta ka ọ chịa ọ for the influence of Anambra. So, na onye ọbụla ihe vote ma onye ọ na-ewepụta kwesịrị ịbụ onye ya abụ ọdụmma Anambra ka obi dị uche. Maka na ichekwuru onye isi ndị ụka o wepụta ekwensu bịa chi Anambra onye ọbụla ya eketa oke n'ihe na ndị bụ ndị ụka ya na ndị abụọ kwata ụka ya so ka ọ bịa m etu a ebi ese ekene m
Okay, so how do you think the attitude of our religious leaders will always affect the psyche of members of the society, especially when they are, practicing maybe something that's not really in tandem with the constitution or the provisions of the society? Okay.
People do what you do and really do what you say.
Yeah.
You get it? So I believe that most of our leaders, our religious leaders, should become themselves beacon of, our moral conscience.
Yes.
Some of our religious leaders become okay at that time, no jeze keliomas. So it's not it's always things here for in our jogi here one day wine of na. So a lot of things have actually gone wrong. Some of them, in their bid to really become excessively political, have dabbled into the fray in very disdainful and very regrettable manner. And when you call them at a signal, hey, because I tell people that as many I believe in God, He has given powers to become sons of God. So, and even Psalm 88 will tell that ye are gods. So the only thing they do is when you are called into an ecclesiastical office, there are certain behavioral patterns. There are certain respectable ways you must conduct yourself, so that you know. So our religious leaders should live out what they preach.
Yeah.
It's very fundamental. They should live out what they preach. As a matter of fact, if we all can actually, in a way, at least live 7% of our life by the 10 Commandments, I am a
Yeah.
You know, if our religious leaders are able to live their life according to the things they preach to us,
Yeah.
or what the Bible they profess says, we wouldn't have issues. So I have no reason to really question a religious leader who is telling his congregation to vote their conscience, to look before they leap, to, you know, the same thing, because as an agenda vote, imagine the vote no mafia. All mother vote.
Yeah.
So no mother no vote to the bar, or no loca, or no mafia, or no mafia, or no mafia, about the mother no vote.
Yeah.
So I need to vote, he only kill na you know, so I don't also blame religious leaders who would want to dabble into politicians go and Trump a vote, right? So, but as a religious leader, there's a way you can keep it quite very objective. Keep it very objective, you know, live your faith, live it in such a way that it would please your maker. Don't allow the transaction to overwhelm the transformation. You know, let these things help your people to have a living conscience, so that in taking their decisions, or you know, making in making their decisions, either political or otherwise, they are making it out of informed stance and from an informed position. You know, so but the long and short of it is that our just should kusi yana say solo kubeso no mumba. I chose na fuzi muma na kunu ya uneku I chefero mumu. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. One final message you can Kanoa, but then from Nzuko, what specific way should our leaders learn to strike a balance? From your experience, from Mr. Governor, from a lot of other people that you worked with, how do we tend to strike a balance between personal faith and public responsibility leadership?
Okay.
Just in a few seconds before.
Okay, first of all, religion should be a bridge and not a barrier. It should be a bridge that connects people, not just to their God, but also to their fellow humans. You know, it shouldn't be a division point for human beings. You know, like I tell people, or told religious or them praise the Lord. They are all the same thing in different ways, right? So anyone who is coming to tell you that no way and can, because one is okay. So our religious should be able to forge a common front and, you know, make people understand that in all of this, the goal is to go back to your maker. The goal is to live life and live it to the fullest in the ways your maker and the Bible that we preach or we teach stipulates. The goal is to make humanity better.
Yeah.
So if our religious leaders can have that as their focal point, I'm sure a small business in a group here, I'm easy. But by the time they bring in selfish interest, bring in personal interest, bring in okay and ondokai, ndokanka the wicked, ondokas ondokai when they those things don't help the conversation. They don't help our growth as a people. We should be able to look at human beings and tell ourselves that in this world there are only two types of people in this world, and these two types of humans are good and bad humans, and they can be found in your family, they can be found in your own church, they can be found in your own home, they can be found in your country, they can be found in your so it's just for us to have an agglomeration of the good people and be able to push the objective of being good and that of being
even when you've touched that briefly before now, people will tell you in terms of equity, any Catholic, any Anglican, any Pentecostal, any Buddhist, any the other side. What they call so let's conclude with that. So we want to thank you for coming and being a part of our show today in spite of the rain, that's we've been discussing with a man you know too well, and he is no other than Mazi Ejimofo Para, National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, and I think I'll be somehow found wanting if I don't add PhD there. Oh yeah, because we deserve it. I don't know how many candles, how many nights you spent trying to get that, and then sir, as a night of the church. Oh yeah. So we want to thank you for being part of ABS show today.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Yeah.
I would like to be here over and over and over again.
Oh yes. Yeah. Anambra, thank you for joining us. Tomorrow I got another Nzuko, Anambra.
Ngabo Uchechukwu Ebonam Ugo Ebenaja Ndibai Soyline ABS. I got IRZ microphone Feze Priska Wanko na Anthony Ugochukwu.